Welcome to another episode of the Sacred Roots podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something terrible that happens to women because I would like to tackle the witch hunts. Actually, I wasn't planning on talking about it, to be honest. But then yesterday, for some reason, I felt called to reopen the book of Lisa Lister, Witch. And I felt called to reread the history of the witches because for some reason, a part of my brain didn't really remember what happened, why it started. It's like I knew all that, but I erased it. So I was like, let's dive into that again. And well, now I remember why I erased it. It's it's so like inflammable what happened. It's so horrible and terrific. But I'm going to touch upon that a bit today, not because it's it's atrocities that I want to share, but more because these witch hunts still impact today's society tremendously. And that is actually making me very angry. So I am fueling my anger into this podcast episode so that I can share this information with you, maybe empower you a bit, make you a bit more wiser, and help you take your power back. So the witch hunts, when did they actually start? They started in the 15th century, in 1448, when Pope Innocent VIII made a statement saying that it was okay and even recommended for men to go and find witches and kill them and not even give them the opportunity to have a trial. And so he outlined the activities that witches were doing, or that was putting the woman in the category of a witch. And honestly, when you have a look at it, it's basically any kind of strong woman. At the time, a lot of doctors were also going to university to get their master's degree. It was probably not called a master's degree at the time, but to be certified as doctors. And having women that were able to help other women give birth, facilitate birth, minimize the pain and all these things, that was a threat to all these doctors that were paying to go to university to become doctors. And then there would be women coming out of the forest that would know more than them. No, that was not possible. And so basically every woman that was wise, that was tapped in, that was intuitive, that was a healer, a herbalist, connected to her sexuality, to her bleeding, her cycles, if she knew how to create babies, how to prevent babies, all these things were considered witchcraft. And so these men started going from one village to another to find the women who were a threat to them because they were basically more powerful or had access to certain kind of information or wisdom that they didn't know. And so when you look at feminine and masculine energy, well, you know that feminine energy is the intuitive part of yourself. And these men, they also had intuition, but they just didn't know how to tap into it because the world was so masculine and so dramatic. And so there was so much violence and anger. And I mean, patriarchy was already very, very, very present at the time. And it was basically a massacre, a gendercide. Like they killed so many women. Like there's a part of the book in the book where she even explains the kind of tortures that they were doing to women. I just couldn't read it. It's making me nauseous. It's terrible what they were doing to these women at the time, and then killing them. And so because women started to be so afraid, if you were actually going to the authority to talk about a sister that was a witch, then you would be saved. You would save yourself. And so there's a huge mistrust that started happening amongst women because sisters and mothers or daughters would go and give their mothers or sisters in so that they could save themselves. So it became like a huge chaos that we are still suffering from in this day and age, because there is a lot of mistrust amongst women because of that. And so, long story short, it was a disaster. A lot of women were killed for no reason, and history barely talks about this. We say, oh yeah, well, it happened before the Renaissance, and then the Renaissance arrived, and then the world was all beautiful and amazing. No, no, no. It happened like right in the middle of the Renaissance, and actually it's still happening today. In certain countries, there are still women who are being killed. Now it's not legal anymore. At the time it was legal, which is the crazy thing. It was completely legal. Now it's not legal anymore, but there are still women who are being killed just because they're women. And today, you and I, listening to this podcast, that live in a very developed and modern society, we might not be killed, but there's a lot that is still happening and done to us so that we stay small, limited, and afraid. And so in 2022, this witch wound is still very present, but it shows up as imposter syndrome, fear of speaking up or being in the spotlight, trying to fit in, hide parts of yourself, not really knowing who you are because you had to hide these parts of yourself. Having eating disorders because you feel disconnected from yourself, from nature, from others. And so you're trying to bring that sweetness or, balancing those feelings of disconnection with food. Feeling like you can't always trust your sister or mother, pushing really hard to work like men, be paid like men, show up like men, be respected like men. Being called out if you dress in a way that is too sexy, if you dance in a way that is too sexy. And we call each other's out as well amongst sisters and girls. Or you can be called a bitch if you dare to say no, if you put boundaries. We're disconnected from nature, from the moon. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast episode, you probably know about the cycles of the moon and how to tune your own cycle with the cycle of the moon and the power that there is there. But so many women are disconnected from that because it was seen as dangerous, as witchcraft, and you could be killed for it. I mean, it's crazy. Like, there are even so many women that are uncomfortable with the word witch. Why are we afraid of the word witch, but not afraid of those who killed them? That still boggles my mind. And that just shows how little people know about our history, your history, the history of the world. History is, of course, always written by men, and the men that are on a winning side of things. There's always more to history than what we actually learn, but we just know so little about this. And it's dramatic because we are still so impacted by it. It makes me really angry and really sad and really upset, actually. Because we are still so limited by this. And there's also a famous quote that you might have seen on social medias or in blogs, or people saying that we are the daughters of the witches they could not kill. And why it's a pretty sassy quote, and I quite like it. This quote actually it implies a lot. I don't know if you already sat with this quote and what it actually means, but if you take a minute to think about it, you start to see that those women who escaped or who weren't killed, they were either the ones who betrayed their sister so that they could be saved. So if you betray your sister or your mother, you're always going to be afraid of someone else betraying you. You just carry that energy around you and you pass it down transgenerationally. Or they were the witches that ran away, and they ran really quick. And then they lived in fear for the rest of their life that they might be found and killed. And they might have to hide parts of themselves to survive. So what has been passed down from these witch hunts, from the woman who survived, is fear, distrust, betrayal, and the feeling that you have to hide and that you need to fit in. And then we wonder why so many women struggle to be confident, struggle to show up, struggle to be in the spotlight, are fearful, need a man to protect them. I mean, obviously that's where it comes from. And when you think that we birth humanities through the womb of women who were afraid to be themselves, no wonder we live in a society that is broken. No wonder all these women are trying to be good girls, feel disconnected from themselves, disconnected from Mother Earth because you had to let go of her in order to survive. No wonder it takes so much courage for us to show up, to speak our truth, to set boundaries, to be honest, to honor our sexuality, to trust our intuition again, to talk about spirituality. I mean, these wounds are so ingrained in society that we don't even see them. It's just like, oh, well, yeah, women are like that. It's normal. No, it's not, because women are incredibly powerful. I mean, I love men, but we're way more powerful than them. Sorry, guys. But it's true. We birth babies, we're tapped in, we're connected to each other. Like, of course, we need that masculine energy as well, but we're the leaders. Everything starts with feminine energy. We're the leaders. We're here to lead a new humanity as well. And we have always been, and that's why we've been hunted. And I'm so done with it. I'm so done with it. And I hope you are too, because this is not possible. And the way to heal this is to work on ourselves, to dare to show up, to do it even though we're afraid. Like Joan d'Arc was saying, I'm not afraid. I was born to do this. But of course she had fear. Of course she was doing things with fear in her bones. But she kept believing and convincing herself that that fear was just an illusion and that she had everything she needed inside herself to go and fight what she believed for. And honestly, the divine feminine, the witch is back, the bitch is back, the whore is back. All of them, all of these parts of yourself are back. She is rising, and you're invited to rise as well, my sister. You're invited to remember, bring all parts of yourself back together and rise again. Take your power back. It is time. It is time. It is time. And we need each other to do that. So if you see a sister, a woman that is stepping up, but you don't even like what she's saying, it doesn't matter. Cheer her up, because she's also struggling with the witch wound. She's also struggling with fear. She's also struggling with potential to be rejected and laughed at. So we need to cheer each other up, even if we don't always agree with each other, even if we do things differently. This distrust and betrayal and fear and competition and hiding amongst us has to stop. We can't go like that anymore. It has to stop. And that's why I am so passionate and devoted to start teaching more about that. And if you listen to my episode of last week, you heard that one of the signs that I received that it was time for me to open my mystery school is that I woke up from a dream with a very clear message that said, a school of witches. Because what is a witch, really? It's a strong woman. It's a wise woman. It's a woman that's connected to herself, to the earth, to the sacredness of life. It's the woman that sees the magic of life and that knows that the magic is her. You know, we talk about mystery schools and how they teach the mysteries of life. Well, darling, the mystery is you. You are the universe. You are life. You don't just have it in you, or you don't just interact with it. You are it. And so while it's super fun in mystery schools and in the Sacred Roots Modern Mystery School that I'm going to be opening in September, I'm going to be talking about the laws of the universe and like all these concepts and things that are very out there and spiritual and all the unseen, but mostly what it is about and what mystery schools have always been about is to give you the knowledge and the information so that you can remember who you are. You know, we always talk about the myth of Isis and Osiris. I mean, we always talk. It's a myth that I really like, and it's a story that is very present in the spiritual community. And it's a story that is taught a lot in mystery schools because this myth of Isis, who brought all the pieces of Osiris back together, she remembered him so that he could resurrect, but then there was one piece missing. So in the end, he died. But this story is actually a representation of our inner world. Because Osiris was dismembered by Seth, his brother. And Seth is the god of darkness and the descent. Basically, he represents fear, control, worry, manipulation, the darker side of the world, of society, and of ourselves. We also have that within ourselves. And so the fear that you experience in your life, the worry, the control that you have over yourself and that others are having over you is dismembering you. You are starting to lose part of yourself because of that. It slowly kills you. And Isis represents the divine feminine. And she's so in love with Osiris that she does everything she can to remember him, bring all of his pieces back together. So the love that you have for yourself, the devotion to your own healing, to honoring your divine feminine energy, which is all about going inwards, facing the darkness, loving yourself, healing yourself, looking for yourself, rediscovering yourself. That is bringing all the pieces of you back in your rebirth. And so remembering who you are is really all about bringing all the pieces of you back together and not hiding again, not hiding anymore, like the witches who had to hide. And it's very interesting to look the parallels, of course, between witch hunts and mystery schools because they're very connected. You know, mystery schools, they were also hidden from society. Maybe before I was talking about mystery schools, you didn't even really know what it was. So let's have a look really at what a mystery school is. So mystery schools have been existing since the dawn of time. They offer teachings that are for men and women. And the purpose of the teachings is really to empower you and enlighten you. And we call these teachings mysterious because they often have to do with everything that isn't really visible. And also mostly because the teachings were hidden from the public. Not everyone could just sign up to a mystery school like that. And the teachings were happening behind closed doors. They were really for the only few, not because not everybody could access them. If you wanted to, you could access them, but because not everybody had the courage to do the work that is asked to integrate all these teachings. Because it's a lot of introspection, it's a lot of healing, it's a lot of inner work to be able to integrate and walk that path of enlightenment. You probably know by now that the spiritual path, it's not just bees and butterflies. It might be once you're on the other side, if there even is an other side, because we're always learning, we're always evolving. It just becomes way easier because you understand how it functions. But really, a lot of these teachings were there to empower you. And because there was already control in place in the society, even 1,000, 2,000 years ago, patriarchy was already there trying to control everyone. These teachings had to happen behind closed doors. So you needed to apply. And if you qualified, you could get into the school and learn from the spiritual teachers, from the wisdom teachers. And so now, today, in this day and age, more and more schools are actually open. There are actually mystery teachings that are shared on social media, on podcasts. We don't really call them mystery teachings, but they are part of what we're taught in the mystery schools. And they are much more accessible because we are in a great spiritual awakening on a collective level. And we are all invited to remember who we are and live as empowered, aligned, sovereign creators of our own lives. And so the Sacred Roots Modern Mystery School is really based on that idea that I want to help you bring all of yourself back together. I want to help you remember how you were connected to the earth, connected to the moon, connected to the unseen, connected to your soul, how you can have your soul really come fully into your life, fully into your body, and lead your life. And it's a school of witches. If you are attracted or repelled by this word, it's okay. This word is so loaded, but really what it means, it's just a woman in her power, a woman in her magic, and that masters her magic. Because life is magical when you think about it. You know, the word magic in itself, it comes from magus, which means chemistry. It's an old Persian word that means chemistry. And we know that everything is made of molecules and energy and always moving and transforming. And so someone that does magic, that does chemistry, the alchemist, is someone that understands the rules of life, the rules of the universe, the rules of your body, and that uses those rules at your advantage in order to have the life that you desire. Like manifestation, for example. That's magic in the eyes of certain. But really, it's pretty simple. And so I'm very excited to be opening the school where you can find actually all the details in the show notes of this episode. The waitlist is now open. We are going to start in September, but I'm going to do a 2-day introduction course in July so that you can have an idea of what it is really that I'm going to teach there, how it's going to be, have a kind of like a small bite experience of what it would be like if you were interested in joining the whole 9 months initiatory course. And the Sacred Roots Mystery School is really focused on 4 pillars, teaching you all those mysteries, helping you remember who you are through the mysteries. Healing, that is definitely part of it. So healing means energy healing, but also emotional healing, changing your thoughts, changing your emotions, mastering them. And then there's integrating all the teachings and all the healing into your life. And then there's a last pillar that is all about leading others. Because as an awakened witch that you'll be by the end of the 9 months course, you have a role as well. You'll be an initiate, and you're also here to lead others into spiritual awakening, into their own alchemy, into trusting their own intuition, maybe even share some energy healing practices with them. And so at the end of the 9 months course, you're also going to be certified as a Woman Circle facilitator so that you can share some of the magic, some of the teaching, some of the healing that you will have gone through with others. So this is a bit about the Sacred Roots and why it's so important in this day and age that we all step into our own magic. I am just going to leave it like this because there is so much I could add, but also nothing more. If you're feeling the call to awaken the power and the magic that is in you, follow that call, whether it's with me, I don't care. It can be with someone else. Just take someone that resonates with you, and that can help you remember. It is time. It is time. It is time. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sending you all my love. I hope my anger hasn't shattered you too much. Anger is good. It's very important to honor it. This is part of the divine feminine as well, to know how connected we can be to our emotions. But anger is just here to say, no, thank you. I am done with this. No more. Anger is there to show our boundaries, and it's very important to honor our anger. So be angry a little bit, my darling. This is your permission. Be angry, take your power back, and remember, I'll see you next week.